Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
This is a test of the emergency podcast system. Activated by contract termination. Rumors of our demise are greatly exaggerated. Welcome to Stacy on the Right with your host, Stacy Washington. She's blessed to be a Bible-reading, gun-toting, Air Force veteran, wife and mom, righteously American.
Just fixing my big tartan scarf here because it's actually cold here. I told y'all I hated to be Debbie Downer and be totally negative, but I kind of figured we weren't going to get a whole lot of fall. We just got like a week or two, and now all of a sudden it's colder than you know what. I can't say it. Even though we're allowed to say anything we want on a podcast, I just can't bring myself to be one of those people who, because I've listened to some of the podcasts like that. I'm like, wow, these people really have potty mouths and they are not ashamed. They're just spreading all their profanity into the ether. And I don't want to be one of those people. So welcome to the show. It's Friday, and I'm so excited to be here. I have a ton of great things to talk about today. First of all, I saw already in the comments in the chat room, people are commenting on the fact that the investigation has gone from being simply a matter to something criminal. And that is appropriate because what the Democrats did was attempt a coup on the presidency of the United States under the guise of a foreign entity or foreign actor being associated with the proceedings. And just know this, and we'll never have, I'll never be able to say quantifiably, I can prove to you that this is true, that they would have done this same action and tried to impeach Hillary Clinton if she'd won. The whole point to this is that she was supposed to win. And since she didn't, they needed a plan B. So we wouldn't know anything about any of this if Hillary Clinton had won the presidency. So praise God for his providence and what he's been able to do with this situation in spite of the swamp and everybody else. Now, you know that anybody who knows anything is right now, they're looking at their health insurance policies. They're looking at everything. They're worried. They're thinking about how can I possibly testify with the Clintons being on the business end of this, because the Clintons they'll fix you. They'll make sure you don't have anything else to think about ever again. That's why they call it Arkansas. Arkansas, people who used to live in Arkansas that don't live there anymore because the Clintons, yeah, I'm not even going to say it on this good air because I like Hillary Clinton as a person. She's a grandma and I like all grandmas. And I just want to make sure people know that in my book, any person can be cleansed of their sins and become made right with God. And so there's no need for the Clintons to be looking at me or thinking about me at all. That's the prerequisite disclaimer for people who might be thinking that, some kind of a car accident is in the offing, if you know what I mean. All right, enough joking around. Today on the show, we will be talking about defunding impeachment. So this is a story by Brian Darling, who I consider him to be a colleague in the writing sphere. He's amazing. He writes some of the best pieces, and we don't always agree 100% on everything, but if anyone takes a subject and thinks it through and can come up with some really great ideas, it's Brian Darling. So I want to start off with that. We are also going to delve into a few other items. And so now, of course, as soon as I say, let's delve into these other items, my laptop is like, you're not connected to the internet. Yes, I am. Oh, here we go. All right, I'm back. See, you can hear the thing going off. One of the things that we're going to discuss besides his idea on how to defund impeachment is to delve into this Antifa thug getting 18 months for attacking a Trump supporter, and President Trump saying we're going to keep all of the oil captured in Syria and bring it home. And then we are also going to discuss how math is racist. Okay. So happy Friday to everybody in all the streams. Thank you so much for being here. And let's talk about this defunding impeachment. So Brian Darling is writing over at townhall.com about conservatives in Congress needing to step up and preserve the separation of powers. Now, there's something important about this. Our founding fathers didn't just come up with our current form of government, willy-nilly. They tried and experimented and came up with this after much work was done, much trial and error, so that this was the best solution for human beings who are flawed and we sin, we make mistakes, and we aren't good at governing ourselves without certain strictures being set up for us, right? And so that's why the founders chose representative government, because it's the form of government that keeps you in closest contact with those you've sent to not rule over you, but to govern for you in your stead. So House Democrats are using the impeachment provisions in the Constitution to wrestle power away from the president and undo the 2016 election. And this is garbage. Now, there are ways for the Senate Republicans and the president to fight back, and that's what he goes over in this piece. Shutting down the federal government until the impeachment controversy is passed is what he says he would do. He says next month, when Senate Republicans have those bills come up for consideration that have shutdown provisions in them, they should shut down the government until the impeachment is over. So that would force the Democrats to do something or pay the price of being responsible for the government being shut down. Now, they have no interest in truth. They already know what the outcome is going to be. They have no interest in giving the president any way of responding to the allegations that have been made against him. And they keep having these secretive hearings where the Republicans who would be most likely to derail the process aren't allowed in the room. They're using procedural maneuvers in order to make that possible. So they want to make it possible to damage the president in a kind of Soviet-style trial that makes it possible for him to be impugned and attacked, but it's not possible for him to defend himself. So impeachment is supposed to be a quasi-judicial exercise, and this is evidenced by the fact that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court presides in the Senate if the House sends over articles of impeachment. So the House is treating it like a partisan legislation process. So the Senate conservatives have something in their arsenal that they can do to get rid of this whole thing. And that is to stop funding the government until the Democrats end impeachment and get back to legislating. The Republicans should make a vote to fund the government, a proxy vote to fund the Democrats' impeachment of President Trump. The president already seems to be on board. NBC News has reported on October 23rd that with funding for federal operations set to expire on November 21st, the political class here is beginning to plan for the possibility or the likelihood in the eyes of some that President Donald Trump will shut down the government to try to turn public opinion against House Democrats for trying to impeach him. Now, I don't know about you, but that's the move right there. Because I say maybe 2 weeks ago, I said, I want to see the Republicans get together and grab 100 interns from all over the place and set them in the room. And each of them has a copy of all of the procedural rules and legislation that cover the impeachment process, and to pick it apart until they find a way to end this. Because those interns will do it. Fill the room up with sodas, pizzas, custom coffees, sushi, hot bowls, hot pots, the ramen bowls, and they'll get it done. For senators, a vote to fund the government should be made into a vote to fund impeachment to get them on the record now. Now, the president has already tweeted about how he wants people to fight harder, and I'm with him. If you are a Republican and you haven't gone Lindsey Graham 2.0, what good are you to us? And I'm serious. I know. And I was told by someone recently, timid people don't have it in them to do some of the things that people like yourself are always, trying to push on them. And I understand it takes different kinds of people to live in this world. And I think some of the best things that can happen to you, like if you're in a quandary or you're having a rough go, tenderhearted people will come alongside you, and they're so empathetic, they'll make you feel better. So we have a place in our world for timid people, but we don't have a place in our Congress for timid Republicans. We don't have room in our Senate for timid senators, not on the GOP side, because whatever wolf blood the Democrats are drinking, they're sucking that stuff up with like it's going out of style. They're addicted to it. They're constantly sharpening their fangs to try to take a bite out of anybody who's on the right just for being alive. That's how they roll, just for being alive. And so in response to that, first of all, when you're in the right, I don't mean political right, but I mean if you hold the correct position, if you are in the moral right, you don't have to be as toothy and sharp-fanged, because the truth is its own answer. The truth is its own sword. That being said, we still need people who are willing to pick that sword up and swing it. We can't have these lily-livered Republicans who are afraid of their own shadow going up against these wolf-fanged Democrats. Because as I pointed out yesterday, and as I'm pointing out now, they're not just out to hurt Republicans legislatively. They're not just out to win political battles. They want to destroy people's lives. If you go up against the Democrats, they actually want to end you, so you never come up against them again. Why do they have to have that attitude? Because they're on the morally repugnant side. They're wrong. They are wrong. And when I say they're wrong, I'm talking about the bedrock basics of right and wrong. Is it right or wrong to say, I didn't win the 2016 election, so I'm going to spend the next 4 years trying to impeach this president? That is not what impeachment is about. They're on the wrong side of our Constitution, of history, of actions that they're permitted to take as elected officials. And so that's why they want to destroy their opponents. It's anger. It's venom. But you can't go into an angry, venomous situation with, your knitting needles. And like I got this scarf on today because I'm trying to keep myself warm because it's a bit chilled up in here. And I don't want to cut the heat up. You can't go in there with your tartan scarf and tug it around your shoulders and kind of say, okay, guys, we need to be nicer to each other. That's what you say to the preschoolers. And even then, you got a couple of preschoolers who are just buck wild. They wild out at home and they're ready to wild out in that classroom. And they'll look at you like, oh, no, that sweet voice isn't going to do it for me, lady. I need a little bit something tougher. Yeah, I need some 180 proof if you're going to get me to sit down. I may be 3, but I'm a tornado. I'm a 3-year-old tornado. These Democrats are like 60 and 70-year-old tornadoes. And they've been festering and swirling around for a long time, but they're not tired. And they want something. If they don't taste some blood out of this president, they're not going to be satisfied. And in response to someone who's looking for your blood, you're going to go in there with your sweater vest on and say, well, we just don't think what you're doing is right. No, you're going to do like Representative Getz did earlier this week. He gathered up some of his comrades in arms and they knew they were in the right and they stormed that skiff. They stormed the secure skiff with pizza and sat down and said, nothing goes on further here, because we're staying. We're not leaving. So if your proceedings have to go on without us, then they won't go on because we're here to eat pizza and take names and kick butts. And we're not out of pizza and we're here for the duration. There you go. So this is what we have to have. More people, if whatever Gates has inside of him, if we could go and extract a little bit of it, a couple of vials, and pump it into everybody else so they can wake up out of the stupor and get down there and do something, not just to defend President Trump, although that is the primary goal here, but to defend our way of life, our system of government, the thing that makes us America, the thing that makes people want to kill themselves to come live here. Equality under the rule of law, meaning that justice is supposed to be blind. You are not supposed to be able to be impeached just because people don't like you. We are not supposed to be selectively prosecuting people in the swamp. Democrats get a get out of jail free card. Republicans go down the hill. Did you see the news today? And sometimes I hate going into the stories where they're purely legal because I don't want to get the legalities incorrect. But we've had Sidney Powell on the show before, and she's amazing. Her energy in person is like, she is so professional and kind, but you can tell underneath that surface is a buzzsaw just waiting to get cut loose. That woman is whip smart, and she's an expert. She's intelligent. She's got this, it's like a tiger persona. It's underneath. So she's very, very, she's nice. Like, I enjoyed interviewing her, but I could tell underneath, boy, she could cut you. She could cut you. I mean, seriously. So she released some information today about how background information, lightly redacted, her 36-page brief that she filed on behalf of her client, Flynn, that he basically was just railroaded. So yeah, the dominoes are starting to fall. Criminal investigation. And Brian Darling has the genius idea of defunding this whole thing. Let it rip. Read these op-eds, share them. They'll be in the show notes for today. And let's do this. Let's go into the weekend roaring like lions because we are right. No more whimpering. Warrior mentality. All right, we'll be back in a minute.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
First, I hold my hands out like they're on a steering wheel. Then I look over my shoulder. 1, okay, cool guy. 2, 3 times. Next, I put it in reverse. Meep, meep, meep. Then I take it up and down, up and down. And that, kiddos, is called the forklift.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now that's dancing. Sure beats flossing.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that after 75 years, Smokey's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when it's dry or windy. Be careful burning yard waste, because wildfires can even start in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Hey everybody, Rachel Ray here. Nothing brings a bigger smile to my face than cooking up a big meal for the whole family and lots of friends. But there's not enough room at my table for the 17 million kids in our country who struggle with hunger. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks collects surplus food to give hope to hungry kids. But they can't do it without your help. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Woo! Let's get crazy!
In movies, when someone at a party jumps into a pool fully dressed, everyone cheers them on and jumps in too. Just so you know, in real life parties, nobody jumps in after you. You just look stupid.
Come on! jump in. Come on.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You know what really gets a party started? Indoor baseball. Yeah, just find a broom or a pool cue, and you can use like anything as a ball. Cans, bottles, shoes. Hey bro, toss me that avocado.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving, the ultimate party foul. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Stacy on the Right.
Hello. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being here on the weekend, intro to the weekend. So excited. I don't know if you guys saw, but we have officially launched over at LifeZet TV. So you just go to lifezet.com and one click gets you there. Top left-hand corner of the page, you'll see LifeZet TV. When you hover over that, the menu drops down and you can go to each one of the shows that are currently being hosted there. And mine is one of them. And it's different content than what you've heard here on the live stream. I actually just did today's show for LifeZet TV right before I came on here. So that is a completely different show. It has different content. I prepared an entire show for there, and it's not an hour. There are no commercials. So it's like a quick TV hit that you can watch or listen to. Maybe you're driving to pick up kids or on the way home. This show, during the actual show, you have those breaks that are put in so that we can have affiliates, radio affiliates who carry the show can carry it in the traditional way. But if you're a podcast listener, you are currently enjoying commercial-free podcasts. So you don't have PSAs or anything if you go to listen.stacyontheright.com. So I do not know what God has in store for me radio-wise, as far as further syndication or terrestrial radio hits or a local station here. That does not actually look like it's panning out at this moment. But I also know that that's how God works. Whenever things look the bleakest or the kind of like nothing is happening, that's when everything's happening. And I'm happy to say that I'm just glad to be doing this. I'm glad to still be in front of you on a daily basis and talking to you and interacting with you on the live stream. It's a great part of the day. Like, it's a highlight to see you guys coming in and going, I'm from Colorado, and kind of chiming in about where in the country you are. And then the comments, I have the smartest people. Like, you know how Ann Coulter says Republicans have the best blacks? Well, I have the best live stream people, and I expect it to grow. I do, but I don't know what that looks like or how that cracks out, other than when I was asked to join LifeZet TV, it was just such a privilege to have someone reach out to me and say, hey, we want you to come on. Instead of me having to kind of seek out the opportunity, I immediately said yes. And now that is going on and it's live and seeing how it's cracking up and working with them, oh, they're so nice. Guys, they're professionals too. They do a great job. So it's a good thing. A good thing to be over there. So lifezet.com, just hover over the LifeZet TV thing, and we even have show clips, you guys. So let's say you're wondering, what was she talking about there? Well, there's a couple of clips up from some of the episodes that we've done. So I think a couple of the episodes had commercial breaks. The other episodes, everyone since then, had no commercial breaks. So super fun. It's not a live stream, so you don't hear me talking to live streamers or taking comments from people who are in the stream. But that's what we do here on this part. So, let's see how it works out. If you're of the praying kind, which I assume most of you are, just please remember me in your prayers that I would continue to have new good ideas and be able to do a great job, and that the show would grow. It's the same program, mind you. Although we have the same intro over there, we have a different outro. So a little bit different outro music. So anyway, that's enough kind of show detail type stuff. LifeZetTV.com. That's the new endeavor that we're doing, and I'm so excited about it. And thank you guys for being so nice. just responding and giving feedback on it. It's just cool. It's just really cool. So back to what we were just discussing here. So defunding this thing is a fantastic idea. Now you might be thinking, okay, wonderful. That's wonderful. The other story that you heard this week that was huge was that Democrats are now trying to convince Americans, and the stupid ones are believing it, that math is racist. Now, remember when they said that English was racist? Now, I don't know about y'all, but I actually spit coffee out on that one. I was in the minivan driving along, one hand on the wheel, the other hand on my Tiva coffee mug that has the pink forest scene on it. I'll never forget it. And I'm driving along, and I think I was listening to Rush Limbaugh. This is, it was a while ago. And he starts talking about how they say English is racist. And I didn't have much coffee in my mouth, but I just spit it out. I was like, what? And then, I had to then put my coffee mug down, pick up some tissues from out of the center console, pat myself off, wipe the little bit off the steering wheel and keep going. Because I couldn't believe that they would try to say that English is racist. If there's anything in the world that isn't racist, it's English, because we have a language that adapts to the situations in which the speakers find themselves in. That's how you can say something is great and mean that it is great in size, large in size, or wonderful. Or you can say, oh, great, which means, wow, that is awful. That's the beauty of English. Not all languages can do that. I'm not going to keep going on because y'all know how much I love English. So this story is over at thelidblog.com, and I encourage you to click the link and share it. Okay. Nikisha, I'm with you, girl. She's got her emoji is the hand on the face, like unbelievable. I'm with you. I'm just like, so now math is racist too. It says, now, first of all, so the guy who runs the Lid blog, Jeff Dunitz, he's a friend. And Jeff and I are in the same mind of this because I hate math too. Now, I like math when we're talking about adding up paychecks or adding up things in the budget and seeing that you have a surplus. And I can do math, but I can't do like trigonometry and calculus. My husband and the kids can, and that's by the grace of God, because I was determined that they wouldn't be like me in math. But he says, before you go on, you should know I hate math. My algebra grade was in the high 90s, but geometry followed and I barely passed. I was the same. I got into geometry and then I went into algebra 2 and I thought letters and numbers don't mix. I can't do this. And I made it out of algebra 2, but that was when I knew I was done with math. And so he says I was forced to take in his junior year trigonometry. And the only reason he didn't get a failing grade in trigonometry is that the boys in the Solomon Schechter School in Brooklyn, a Jewish day school, stole the Trig Regents exam, the New York statewide test, and it was canceled. These boys will have a special place in my heart to my dying day. He says they didn't steal the entire test, just the answers, and made some money selling the answers until they got caught. So now, 45 years later, there's a new reason for skipping math for him, 45 years later for him. According to the Seattle Public Schools Ethnic Studies Advisory Committee, BS, bullcrap alert, Ethnic Advisory Committee made up of people whose heads are dumber than a bag of rocks. Yeah, I said it. Y'all pray for me. They say math is racist. They've empowered a committee, another group of stupid people to review the district's math curriculum with an eye toward taking the racism out of the math. Yeah. The committee is suggesting a new framework, that's euphemism for BS, that tries to eliminate the idea that Western math is the only legitimate expression in math. It is, because we live in the West. Hey, can you imagine? Let's just put a pin in that for a second. Can you imagine that you were, I don't know, at your house and your spouse said, I think that there's more than one way to legitimately express my love for you. And you said, oh, what does that mean? What other legitimate way could there be? And they said, another way for me to legitimately express my love for you is for me to be with someone else. I can legitimately express my love for you by being with someone else. That's what I plan to do. How many of you out there would be ready to, you're getting ready to flip a table? Because that's a lie. The person is basically trying to con you. Well, I feel that example that I just gave is akin to this. If you believe that because the math that we do here in this country is the math that literally rules the world, I know the Chinese have a faster way of doing addition and subtraction, and I totally respect it, but we don't teach it here. And so that's why I'm not espousing that. The minute America switches over to the Asian math and we all start adding like 10-digit sums in our head, instantly like Asians do, I'll be all about that as well. I think it's a fantastic system. It's just not taught here. But when we look at our country, we look at all of the things we've done. I mean, I'm sitting here telling you, I'm sharing with you from this MacBook Pro. All this stuff here was created, the origins of all of this equipment that's being used to transmit my image and voice simultaneously to people on YouTube and Twitter or Periscope and Facebook and StacyOnTheRight.com, all made here in America. And the people who made it used Western math. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get radical here for a second and say that Western math is pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. And with the emphasis on the T, pretty awesome. Okay? It's fine for me to say that. And I'm not saying it's fine because it just makes people feel good. I mean, it's fine because it's the truth. And there's nothing racist about it because there are plenty of black folk running around. Oh my goodness. Plenty of black folks running around saying that they know math. They're like, my kids are black and they know math. So how can it be racist for them? Math is not racist if you don't understand it. It just means you need a tutor. And there are plenty of people out there who are fantastic. And they didn't understand math in the beginning. They got tutoring and then they learned it and realized, oh my goodness, I actually do love math. Because usually people who hate math just don't understand it. And I'm saying that as someone who I'm not a math lover. And I readily admit I'm not good at math. That's why I don't love it. But people who do love it, whose parents took the time to teach them math, they absolutely enjoy it and they love it and they see it as a tool, which is what it is. Tools can't be racist. That's like saying a hammer is racist. Hammers aren't racist. A hammer can be used to hammer in nails and build something. A hammer can be used to harm someone or smash someone or something and be used as a tool of destruction. But the hammer itself is not the destroyer. The hammer isn't racist. The hammer isn't a murderer. The hammer is just a tool. That is why math is also just a tool. Cheryl says, I don't do math. That's why I have a husband that lives it, that loves it. My husband is the same. I don't have to do advanced math because my husband can do it. We're each called to things. My husband is not exactly into writing, newspaper articles and stuff like that. I am. So that's what I get to do. And he doesn't even have to worry about it because I'll do it. So that's the normal thing. If you're experiencing the show and you have buffering, you can always go to StacyOnTheRight.com where there is no buffering. And as far as me saying, I am working on that, but I do think it's kind of critical on a Friday for you to be commenting on that kind of stuff. Like that seems a little bit mean. So don't be mean. Just be nice on Fridays. On Fridays, cut me some slack. So he says, okay, first of all, this is Jeff Dunitz again. I said put a pin in it. We're back. He says, math isn't all Western. Algebra was created by the Arabs. The very name algebra comes from the title of a book by Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizm in the 9th century. Al-Khwarizm lived in Baghdad, which makes me wonder when he was writing about algebra, was he riding his camel all around the city trying to find X? So the new Seattle Schools framework is broken into 4 different themes: origins, identity, and agency, power and oppression, history of resistance and liberation, and reflection and action. Garbage. Where do they fit in math knowledge like 2 times 2 equals 4? According to KTTH in Seattle, the framework believes math is manipulated to allow inequality and oppression to persist. They ask, who is doing the oppressing? I think the answer is supposed to be the white, cisgendered, heterosexual Christian man. That's their boogeyman for everything, y'all. They ask, how is math being used to resist and liberate people in communities of color from oppression? Ironically, if you subscribe to this social justice worldview of math and teach anyone that there's no such thing as correct answers, you will be doing immeasurable and, yes, oppressive harm to students. Because once they leave your garbage school system and they get to a place where math is actually taught and respected, they'll learn that they can't just write down anything that they feel because they're black and everyone else is a racist. And then they'll really be hurting. And since math and science and reading are the areas in which black students do not excel nationally on national standardized testing, and since blacks are being left behind in those areas, instead of blaming racism, how about getting these kids into some tutoring so they can get the information and make something of themselves? This is actually more detrimental to black kids than having a racist around. Jeez. All right. So TV channel King 5 adds, the goal is to disrupt the status quo and do something different. This is some person who is the ethnic studies program manager at Seattle Public Schools. Castro Gill says their research shows a disparity in the district between white students and students of color. So get the students of color a tutor. The data is clear. We're not serving our district students of color. So you guys remember that I was elected to school board some years ago, and I served on the school board, and we had the same problem. It was a AAA rated school district, and a lot of the kids, one out of every 5 kids fell into the achievement gap. And if you went into the black statistics on black kids, it was an even higher number. And so we proposed to do a intensive math workshop type of a deal that was created by teachers on the committee that I was working on before I was on school board. And what happened was a lot of the white parents were like, well, why are only the black kids getting help? And the administrator said, because the black kids are the ones who are in the achievement gap. But a bunch of the white parents were like, so what? We want all of the kids to have access, which I was a little split on that, because I thought if your kid is proficient or advanced and my kid is like at the 20th percentile, meaning they can't do math at grade level, why would you say your kid should get some extra tutoring when my kid is obviously about to flunk out? But we made accommodations to make sure that every ability group, whether it was advanced kids or kids who were in the middle or kids who were deficient, everyone had an opportunity to participate, and we were able to make huge strides in student achievement in the area of math. That's what happens when parents get together with teachers and administrators and they make a decision that they're going to work through the problem of kids not performing in school, whether it's math or reading or whatever, not blaming it on race. All right, we'll be back.
I'm little teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Is that a faucet running? That's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest. Forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink.
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
I didn't know the trees were so amazing.
Yep, and the forest gives us shade, trees to climb.
That's awesome. Let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does, just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Where were you, Jill?
We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Stacy on the Right.
So over in the chat room at StacyOnTheRight.com, Smoke says his youngest daughter is a chemical engineer and she has a permanent tan. Well, then she must be a part of the patriarchy, Smoke. Obviously, I'm kidding. As someone who we've met a lot. So as soon as one of your kids decides to do whatever career path they choose, then the next year or so you'll spend meeting all the people who are already doing that as a career. It's like the same way as if you buy a white car, then you see all the white cars on the road. All of a sudden, every other car on the road is white, it seems like, and you never noticed it before. It's the same thing with if your kid goes into engineering, you just bump into engineers. And we've been bumping into a lot of people who graduated from the school that our kids are going to. So it's interesting because we don't see any of these subjects as being racist. In fact, I think one of the things that's it's an interesting phenomenon is that so many people who have joined in the tech revolution, who do the networking and tech support and all of that, are minorities. So it's like tech support is like customer service for the computer world, and that seems to be an area in which minorities thrive. And so I don't like stereotypes, but most stereotypes are rooted in some truth. And if that's the case, then how are so many minority people, Black people, working in tech support if math is racist? Because you have to know some math to be able to do tech support. So Tammy is over in the chat room. She says the leftists want everyone to be divided into little disenfranchised factions. It's all about control. So smart. Like, I'm not seen Tammy before in the chat room. At least I don't remember, but she's brilliant. Yes. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, White Panda. Thank you, Smoke. And everybody else who's in there. I can't read all the names on this interface. I'll have to click over to the other one. So to close out this story from over at the Lid blog so we can move on, because I have a super cool story about ultra pure water and neutrinos. And I want to get to that before the end of the show. He says, Jeff Dunitz over at Lid blog says he consulted with his son, who's a senior in college and an applied math major. His son tells him that math is not anti-Semitic because Jeff Dunitz says if it's racist, it's also anti-Semitic because he's Jewish, because he didn't understand geometry and trigonometry, the curriculum, and the two students who stole the and started selling the Regents' answers were expelled from a Jewish school. So obviously, everything having to do with math has to be anti-Semitic. Well, his son says it's not. He says, Dad, I am Jewish and I understand math. Now, Jeff says when his son tries to explain to him anything having to do with the math that he does, it sounds like he's speaking Chinese. Jeff Dunitz says his son tried to explain what was correct and incorrect about the math the characters use in the Avengers Endgame movie. And he just was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you sound like you're speaking another language. Well, I tell you what, I feel the same way when my daughter is talking about dissecting this thing or that thing, or removing the skin from this thing or that thing, or the math that she had to do before she got to college, because she finished her math requirements before she actually enrolled full time. And sometimes I'd say, what are you working on? And she'd say, well, I'm comparing these two, and everything after comparing these two, I couldn't understand. But it's not about me understanding it, because it didn't make it racist because she understood it and I didn't, or anti-momist because she's a child and she understood it and I'm an adult and I don't. It's a matter of me saying, you know what, instead of doing the radio, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to learn math. And I'm going to start at the level where I left off and have someone tutor me from there. And I'm going to take classes and I'm going to learn it. And if I set my mind to do that, I could do it. That's the difference here. It's not that you can't do it. And it's not that it has anything to do with your race. It's that you decide what you want to learn. And when we tell students that things are racist and therefore they don't have to learn them, we're letting them off the hook. It's the same as, to take another example that you guys were right here for and you watched the whole thing. You were literally the guinea pigs on which we experimented when Noah taught me how to be a producer, taught me how to cut audio, taught me how to maneuver the buttons, taught me how to live stream from one place to another, taught me how the interfaces work between the Sony Handycam and the Mackie mixer and the streaming computer, taught me how to use a Rivendell computer, the same ones that they use in studios all over the country. Now, I don't have the fancy touchscreen job, and mine is obviously not brand new, but it's the same thing that producers use. They just have the better interfaces and fancier, newer equipment because they're working at multi-million-dollar companies and I'm here in our little studio. So, had I said at that point, well, they just got rid of me because they're racist, or this equipment is racist, I never could have learned it. And we wouldn't be doing this live stream right now. Well, we might be doing one just like I used to. Sometimes I'll do a video on my phone. I'll go into Facebook and turn on the live stream button and I'll live stream from my phone. I've done them walking up and down our street and in the living room and everywhere else. We'd still be doing that because that would be the level at which I could still operate. And those are fantastic videos. I'm not judging. But what I'm saying is you can't get from where I was over the summer to here without me making a decision. I remember it. I get the bad news on a Thursday afternoon. And on Saturday, I was talking to my husband and I said, I don't feel like I should give up. What do you think? And he said, give up? Why would that even enter your mind? I said, I'm just trying to see if you think on the same lines as me. I'm supposed to keep going. And he said, you absolutely are supposed to keep going. So what are you going to do next? And in that moment, I stopped for a second and I said, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to learn whatever I have to learn to keep this show going. And then I immediately started searching for platforms. Can I live stream? What can I do? And I started calling people who were already doing the live streaming, who they were never on terrestrial radio. They never had syndication contracts. They never had any of that stuff. They just have always done it themselves. I called 3 of those friends and sat while they talked with my pen and my paper. I still have the folder with the notes in it right over there. And I took notes while they talked because I decided I'm going to keep going. So am I a paragon of virtue? There's a couple things that I could be doing, like the Skype computer. I got to spend some more money to buy a Skype computer and learn how to work that interface. And Noah's completely willing to train me on how to do it, even help me to get going with it. But I have not yet pulled the trigger on that because I've been busy working on the LifeZet TV. LZTV is what I've been putting my focus there because I feel like that's a great expansion for the program. It's a great platform and I really like the people over there and I respect their work. So I haven't worked on that. But do you notice there, it's all about decisions. And so that's the most important thing we can do is tell our kids when they're struggling with something, don't give up, first of all. And second of all, make the decision that you're going to conquer this. Decide in your mind that you're going to conquer this subject. And if that means, that I got to give up playing video games or hanging out with my friends for a couple hours every weekend so I can get tutored, or if that means, and I hate to say this because I know a lot of parents are very, very religious about having their kids involved in the sport. And our kids have always been involved in sports or something. But if it is a choice between academics and sports, if you have to take a year off from basketball or soccer or what have you to get a mastery of math so that you can be on grade level as a senior, you've taken calculus, then that's what you have to do. And when the parents get on board with that concept, when parents say to kids, I'm behind you. I'll work extra hours to make sure I have the money to pay for the tutor, but you have to be willing to sit with the tutor and not doze off or play video games. You have to listen. You have to do the homework. Are we in agreement? When a parent will say to a kid, I'll do what it takes to get you the help you need. Will you do the work? A kid on the inside, it's like you got a little pump and you're pumping them up. You've pumped that kid up. That kid is now, their back is a little straighter. They're like, wow, my mom is willing to work a few extra hours so I can get a tutor. I'll do it, Mom. I'll sit with the tutor. We can do it for 2 months. We can do it for 3 months. We can do it for the first half of the school year. Whatever you can do. You start looking, if you put some prayer on that and look, you'll find someone who'll say, I'll work with your budget. What's your budget? Because I want to see your kid excel at math too. Tutors are like that. Not all of them, but there's a ton of them. Oh my goodness. We've met some really kind-hearted people. And worst comes to worst, you get a kid who's a couple years older than your kid who needs to earn extra money, and you pay that kid to tutor your kid. So you won't have a master's degree professional tutoring your kid, but you'll have a kid who already has passed that class, who knows how to do the math, teach your kid how to do the math. Work the system. The system is get it done however you can get it done. And so I just feel so bad for the people, like all of us here in this audience, we know better. We know math isn't racist. This isn't going to impact us. None of us is going to tell our kids tonight over the dinner table, forget all that math studying you're doing. Math is racist. Forget it. But there are kids out there who they don't have parents who know right from wrong or who know better. Those kids are going to get told that math is racist, and they're going to, it's hard. It's hard. If you don't understand it, if you haven't had a background where your parents are teaching you math from 3 on, it's hard. So you're going to give up. And that is so wrong, because these are kids who have great brains who, if they just would do the work, if they had someone to tell them what to do, the right thing to do, they could be out there in the world making it. These are the decisions. You decide math is racist in 8th grade. That means you're never going to college. That's what that means. You decide math is racist in the 10th grade. It means you might go to a college and choose something super easy like basket weaving or Black studies. It means you're never going to be in that group of people who earns $1 million in income before they hit 30. You won't be there because you can never earn $200,000 a year if you're working as Black studies teacher's assistant for $28,000 a year. I mean, these are the things, these are the little decisions that set you on a path. Then that path leads to something. The Bible says it leads to destruction. A little folding of the hands, a little taking of a nap leads to poverty and hunger. Check it. I didn't write it. The Bible says that. Just don't hold it on me. All right. So the Super-Kamiokande Neutrino Detector. This story will be in the link. This is something cool you can share with your kids. Like at dinner tonight or tomorrow or whenever, when you're sitting there with your kid and you're thinking, I want to say something to like dazzle my kid. Here it is. The Super-Kamiokande Neutrino Detector is a physics experiment the size of a 15-story building, and it's buried under a mountain in Japan. Neutrinos are subatomic particles that pass through all of us all the time. Studying them can tell us about supernovas and the composition of the universe. The detector is full of ultra-pure water, which can leach the nutrients out of your hair and even dissolve metal. Hidden 1,000 meters under Mount Aikino in Japan is a place that looks like a supervillain's dream. Super K, as it's sometimes referred to, is a neutrino detector. Now, when scientists study neutrinos, the particles, they can detect dying stars and learn many, many things about the universe. So Business Insider spoke to 3 scientists about how the giant gold chamber works and the dangers of conducting experiments inside of the chamber. This is all about the subatomic world, first of all. So neutrinos can be very hard to detect, so much so that Neil deGrasse Tyson dubbed them the most elusive prey in the cosmos. They have a video there by him, but let's skip on. Matter poses no obstacle to a neutrino. A neutrino could pass through 100 light years of steel without even slowing down. So why would scientists want to catch them at all? Well, if there's a supernova, a star that collapses into itself and turns into a black hole, then if that happens in our galaxy, something like Super K is one of the very few objects that can see the neutrinos from it. So before the star starts to collapse, it shoots out neutrinos, so Super K acts as a sort of early warning system, telling us when to look out for these dazzling comic events. And then it has a picture here of the Crab Nebula, which is the result of a supernova explosion observed in 1054. So the back of the envelope calculations say it's going to be about once every 30 years that a supernova explodes in the sort of range that our detectors can see. If you miss one, you're going to have to wait another few decades on average to see the next one. So Super K doesn't just catch neutrinos raining down from space. Situated on the opposite side of Japan is Tokai, the T2k Experiment, which fires a neutrino beam 295 kilometers through the Earth to be picked up in Super K on the west side of the country. Studying the way neutrinos change or oscillate as they pass through matter may tell us more about the origins of the universe, God, for example, and the relationship between matter and antimatter. So this thing is gorgeous. It's a bunch of what look like gold balls stacked on top of each other, going up to the ceiling, which is also covered with gold balls, and the floor is covered with gold balls. So I wanted to share this with you today on the show because it's Friday, and because we were talking about how math is racist, and the Japanese people are over there using gold balls to catch neutrinos and learn about supernovas, which are the result of black holes collapsing. Woo! If your brain's smoking hot right now from all that info, good on ya. God bless you. Have a fantastic weekend. More Stacy on the Right on Monday.